Hello everyone, hope you all are doing great. We are here to explain our project, understand and applying threat modeling. It is very important for a security personnel to understand, identify a threat and bring it down to an acceptable level by applying the required technologies or models to make sure that the organization operates safely. As many security managers avoid discussing threat modeling because they perceive it as expensive and difficult. However, threat modeling has become easier just as it has become more important. Perhaps it's time for another look. So now, what is threat? Anything that has the potential to cause serious damage to an organization in terms of information, property, finance, etc. is termed as a threat. A threat may or may not happen but has the capacity that may exploit vulnerability, and to avoid such damage, applying threat modeling is important. What is threat modeling? A process where the potential threats are identified, classified and analyzed is termed as threat modeling. It is performed either as a proactive method or as a reactive method. So the process in which the designing and development of the product is done is termed as proactive, and in the reactive one, deployment of a product is done. In both the scenarios, a potential threat is identified, calculates the probability of occurrence, prioritizes the level of concern, and eradicates or brings down the threat to an acceptable level. It's important for an organization to start the threat modeling at the beginning, as it's not meant for a single event. So the most critical part of this process is identify the asset, and then architecture overview, then decompose application, then again identify the threat, document the threats, and then the rating of the threat is done. So now, how to identify the threat? There are many possible threats, and it's very important to use an analytical approach to precisely identify consistent threats. Different organizations have different approaches. Some may use one approach and some may use multiple approach. Most common approaches used are as focused on the assets, focused on attackers, focused on the software. A guidance is required while identifying and classifying the threats. A threat classification is developed by Microsoft known as the STRIDE. Now, what is STRIDE? STRIDE is S for spoofing, T for tampering, R for repudiation, I for information disclosure, D for denial of service, and E for evaluation of the privilege. Then, what in this is, it is often used in identifying software related threats. However, it can also be used in other contexts as well. These 6 concepts of STRIDE are moderately widely suitable. Once the threats are identified, we have to determine and diagram the potential attacks. Once the security personnel identify and understands the threat during the development of the project or deployment of a product, the next in this model is to determine the concepts of the potential attack. This is often consummate in pictorial form, whereas the elements involved in the process are shown with the indications of data flow and boundaries. This pictorial form of data helps better understanding of the resources, movement and relationship of data through a diagram. This process of diagramming is also known as the architecture diagram. Here is an example of diagramming for an online transaction and how it works. Once the diagram is designed, identifying all the technologies involved in this process. Also identify the attacks that could be targeted at each element. So the next step is to perform reduction analysis. After determining and creating an architecture diagram of potential threats, next step in threat modeling process is to perform reduction analysis. In other terms, it is known as decomposing the application, environment, and system. The main aim of this step is to get better understanding of the reasoning of the product, also the communication with external elements. Each element should be evaluated carefully in order to understand the inputs, security, data management, and storage and outputs. Now, there are five concepts of decomposing, which are trust boundaries, data flow paths, input points, privileged operation, details about security stance, and the approach. Last step in this process is prioritization and the response. Once all of these steps are performed, the next step is to document it. This document should mention the means, target, and consequences of the threat. After all the documentation is done, prioritize the threats. This can be completed using various techniques such as probability into damage potential ranking, high, medium, or low rating, or the DRADE system. DRADE rating system has damage potential, reproducibility, exploitability, affected users, discoverability. Now, how does it help in a project? The involvement of threat modeling in the project can help, number one, in fabricate a protected structure, productive venture of assets, suitably organized security, advancement, and in different assignment. Moreover, it also helpful in unite security and development to team up on a common comprehension, distinguish dangers and consistent necessities, characterize and construct required control, recognize where constructing control is essential, and it also helpful in guarantee business prerequisite or enough secure not withstanding a damage on screen character. Here are also a few references that we have researched on which involve threat modeling in security field. First of all, we have researched on an adaptive threat model for security ceremonies, and this article is based on the active attacker, which are nowadays occurring, from which Needham and the writer Schroeder presented an eavesdrop on an attacker named Dolev Yao, which is one of the powerful attacker consisting in today's era. Anyhow, significant researches has been conducting to analyze these type of attacks by implementing and designing different protocol of security to secure the network from any kind of threat occur within an organization. We can easily secure our network and confidential data from any sort of detectable threat. We propose a dynamic threat model can be adjusted according to each ceremony and consequently adapt the model and ceremony analysis to realistic scenarios. Here we have searched one more paper that is for analysis and security evaluation of security threat on the broadcasting services. So we have different administration in broadcasting services such as in the mobile phone, in TV, portable, and in other communicate business administration. In any case, they likewise interface with outside system to give extra administrations and to communicate business administration or with different kind of communicate media are vulnerable to security dangers from which their telecom administrations may stop or might be manhandled by the programmers. So we likewise infer the consequences of an entrance test for the STB through the outcomes give regard to a security danger. This outcome will help address potential security vulnerability in communicating. There is one more research that is on the threat model based approach to the security testing. Programming security issues have been a noteworthy worry in the internet network, so a lot of research on security testing has been performed and different security testing methods have been produced. And it has been all well accepted practice by business, yet experiment aids from risk models has not been tended to yet. Along this line, in this paper, we propose a danger model-based security testing approach that consequently creates security test arrangement from risk trees and change them into the executable test. So these consequences of our investigation demonstrate that our danger tree-based approach is viable in uncovering vulnerabilities. So I hope you like our project research, and thank you all for listening, and please share your feedback. Have a great day. Bye bye.